I would like to know from both of you, what are your plans of engaging those institutions in alleviating health disparities between the haves and the have-nots in the 11th Congressional District?
Okay, each candidate will have a minute to answer this question, and Mayor Fudge, you can go first.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hill. There are a number of things that have to happen in really addressing health care. The first thing is we have to reduce the cost of prescription drugs, and we can do it. We won't allow our government to negotiate lower rates. We won't buy drugs from other countries, and we really do fight in bringing in generics because the pharmaceutical companies have such a hold on the government that they keep us from using generics for 25 to 30 years. I think as it relates to the healthcare institutions, the first thing we need to do is engage them in conversation. We need to sit down and talk to the leaders of the Cleveland Clinic and the leaders of UH and say to them how important it is that we find a way to make this community a healthier community. And I think that that begins just by dialogue. I don't know that we can necessarily say to them, you have to do A or do B, but I think we need to take to them what our concerns are and the other healthcare institutions as well and say, how do we fix this problem? That's how I think we start that.
Mr. Pekarek?
It's exactly the same as I'm trying to increase the income of every citizen in the country by their ownership stake. To make it the thing that each of these people that are going there are going to have an increase in their income that they'll be able to afford both their income, their insurance, and the prescription drugs. They'll have more in their pocket. They'll be able to afford it. And just to give you an example of somebody who is around 40 years old, they would be making approximately $32,000 a year just in their capital homesteading stake, in addition to whatever job they're in, or even if they're on welfare, they'll still be making $30,000 a year to be able to afford health insurance, to have the care so that they can go and get to a hospital and get the kind of care that they absolutely need in every case. We need to get off of making sure that this one works better than that one. We really need to have to take care of this person with money.
Mayor, do you care to respond?
No.
Okay. In that case, let's get another question from the audience.
Sure. Our next question comes to us from the Cuyahoga County Library Branch in Maple Heights.
Hi, I'm David Bullock at Maple Heights, and I was thinking about how libraries have changed very dramatically over the last 10 years, and I was wondering how the two of you see libraries factoring into each of your plans in the future and helping the community to recover.
Thank you. Mr. Pekarek, you can answer first.
That's a wonderful question. I really thank you very much for that question. I'm one of the greatest proponents of the libraries of the country. We have one of the greatest resources in the Cleveland Public Library and all the other public libraries in our area. It's just, that's a place where you could learn. And there's so much wealth of knowledge there. I'm always a proponent of increase funding of this for all our citizens so that they can learn continuously throughout their life, whether it be institutions, whether it be, of higher learning, or the library. People need to be able to get into a specific thing and do research. Google's not the only way. I think a library is just as good. It's just a wonderful place to learn things. I always carry books with me.
Ms. Fudge.
Let me first say that I am a strong proponent of issue 127. We have to do what is necessary to pass the issue to increase funding for our libraries. Secondly, in communities like mine in Warrensville Heights, where there are not a lot of activities for young people to do after school, the library has become their after-school gathering place. The library has become their meeting place. The library has become their safe place. So certainly we want to encourage young people to use the library, but we need to have a functioning library as well. And ours just happens to be very small, like so many are in our communities. So we want to be able to say to them, this is the place where you can supplement your education and where you can feel good about being. So I'm certainly hopeful that it's going to pass. And as a fairly avid reader myself, I'd like to encourage young people to really explore the world through books. So I'm a very strong supporter.
Let's take another question from the audience.
Good afternoon. My name is Don Graves. I just would like to ask either or both of you to share your sentiments about the anticipated transfer of Eaton Corporation out to the Highland Hills development.
Mayor Fudge, you can go first.
Well, hey, let me tell you two things. As the mayor of the city of Morrisville Heights, I'm very happy about it. As the congressperson, I might take a different view. But right now, I think that there are two good things that have happened. One is that we did not lose Eaton totally. It is still in the district. The city of Cleveland is going to receive all of the revenue that comes from the sale of the property, as well as 50% of the income. Now, we talk about things like regionalism and we talk about tax sharing, but see, everybody wants to have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. Either we're going to work as a region and we're going to share resources, or we are not. So I think that this is really a very excellent example of what can be done when we talk about tax sharing. I think that for the citizens of the city of Cleveland, one of the poorest cities in the community, I think that it's a loss, clearly. But I'm happy that it's still here.
Mr. Pekarek.
It's a good point you bring up that we're moving one corporation out. But I look at it as a positive because with capital homesteading, we're going to be creating new corporations that we own that'll go into the flux when we're rebuilding Cleveland, when we're developing Cleveland in a new way, because we're owners of these corporations that we're going to do to redo our city, to expand our transportation system, and we'll be owners of these companies. And these companies will be headquartered here, and then we won't worry about them leaving. We'll be worrying about expanding them and keeping them here and sending them somewhere else to make us more money. And then that'll be a good thing that way. We shouldn't be fearful. We should be sharing in the equity of these corporations in our town.
Thank you. Let's take another question from the audience.
Over here by the door. Good afternoon, both of you. I want to say congratulations on your desires to represent the district. Are there any legislative directives or initiatives or pending legislation either of you want to get involved with and get passionate about if you get to Washington? Bankruptcy reform is one of the things I'm thinking about. We had some changes in the law. Were they good or bad? Did they attribute anything to the downfall of the markets? Or even prison reform? Is there something going on in Washington you want to get involved with? And what would that be?
Okay, so we're talking about top priorities if and when you get to Washington. Mr. Pekarek, why don't you start?
Well, my top priority is getting the Capital Homesteading Act passed. No, I know, but that's my top priority. But after that, I'm very involved with legislative of any kind of veteran issues. Being a veteran, I'm very concerned about that. That's a major priority for me in the second, or in the administration as well. I think tax reform, going along with the credit and monetary reform, is very important as well.
Mayor Fudge.
Your Honor, how are you? I'd first like to say that I'd like to be on the Financial Services Committee, the committee that everybody is running from right now, but I think it's the most significant thing right now we can do is to weigh in on what is happening with the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act of 2008. I think it's important that we weigh in on that. Secondly, commerce. One of the things you want to do as a new person in Congress is to find ways to bring dollars back to your district. And those are the committees that are most effective in doing that. So those are the two things I'd really like to be involved in and work with the legislation that is before those two committees at this time.
Thank you. While we're talking about top priorities, I'd actually like to ask a follow-up question if I can. Starting with you, Mr. Pekarek, in 30 seconds. We recently learned that the national debt clock in Times Square is about to run out of digits when it reaches $10 trillion. It might have already gotten there. How high a priority would it be for you to tackle the national debt?